41.
Yep.
Mine's page 45.
Well, that's not
Because I got more stuff.
page 41.
So the anchor for lesson 3 is God is who he says he is. God gets to define himself. We don't get to define God. He is God, we are not, and he is who he says he is. So A.W. Tozer was a famous author in the 20th century, and he said this. He said, what comes into your mind when you think about God? And then he says that what comes into our minds when we think about God is the most important thing about us. The most important thing is that we understand who God is, and when we understand who God is rightly, there's nothing more important than that. And we are finite, so it is impossible for us to fully understand God. He is infinite, so you don't want a God that you can fully understand. If you have a God that you can fully understand, one of two things is true: either you're God, or that's your God, or he isn't. So God is God. It's impossible for us to fully understand God. Yeah. So what this lesson is about is talking about who God is, but it's also about this whole year is about engaging the culture. How do we engage others for Christ? The reason we do Worldview 12th grade is that every single one of you will be somewhere that's not Cornerstone next year. You might be in the workplace, you might be at a college, you might be living in your parents' basement and playing video games, but whatever it is, you will be somewhere that's not Cornerstone next year. And it's important that when you engage the culture, and I want you to engage the culture, and I'm hoping that I'm equipping you to engage the culture, that you'll be ready for that, to tell others about Christ. And who God is foundational to every part of the Christian faith and to telling others about it. Now, God is who he says he is. He gets to define himself. And in some sense, that's probably true for all of us. Do you like it when other people peg you, like they define who you are? People did that to me in high school. When I moved somewhere, pretty much everybody already knew I was coming because it would have been in the paper, and they would know I was coming. Not I was coming, my dad was coming. That black. And I can't tell you how many times my people wrote in my yearbook, I really hated you until I got to because they assumed that as a general starter I was and what I thought really highly of myself. Which especially at that point in my life, I did not think highly of myself. God defines who I am, and God defines who we are, but nobody else can define. Yes.
Maybe that's one of the reasons why the sophomores don't sing, because they're afraid of being branded uncool by all the other sophomores in class.
I made my peace with them.
You should bring us in to sing for them
Yes.
so that they see
You should
what they
mix
should.
up the truth, and then we all just like
Mix up the where are you?
I'm in government.
Government, yeah, we're
Mr. Matt's pretty chill.
Yeah, Mr. Van be cool.
we should enter as the intro. We all come in through those doors and we circle.
We all like open the door slowly. Congratulations, Mrs. Smith.
What's our graduation robes early? So we
You have a new baby.
Yes, the baby's crying. We circle
We'll walk in the circle like asparagus and David and VeggieTales. Oh no.
So anyway, before we begin, we're going to do a little bit of a review. Then we'll move on to take some new ground before we're done today. So, how how does a humanist answer the question, from where did we come?
Probably not like a scientific explanation.
Yeah, a scientific explanation. Well, there was this slime and this primordial goo, and stuff started being made out of that, and eventually human beings came about. So evolution. That's how that would be answered. And then how does the postmodernist answer the question, what hope do we have? Yeah.
They would answer that we don't.
Yeah, I think some would. I would say some would say ultimately there isn't hope.
Especially if they're deconstructionist.
But yeah, especially if they're deconstructionists. But also they would say our hope is in science, perhaps. Yes.
They would also say our hope is in progress. Like people who believe in the in communism, they would say like after creating such an order that we're all nice and all that.
Like that works out. Yeah, history tells us that's just the way to go. Everybody loves each other. Yeah. Why that? Okay. What is the definition of a pantheist? Yes.
They believe that everything is God, that the universe kind of created itself, that is just kind of like everything being God, and then it's just really convoluted on what's good and what's evil.
Yeah, so God is everything and everything is God. They may believe that the collective everything comprises God, or they might believe that everything is part of God. And I don't know if it's most pantheists, but some would say that's living things, but some would say no. I mean, the guy that I met said a part of me is in this glass. So the glass was part of God. Yes.
It's kind of like the actor in the interview, forgot his name. He was saying, yeah, that's it. Whoops, forgot his name. He was saying that the universe is a what was the word? Like a play or a production put on for the universe.
Yeah, dancing for itself. Yeah. Which
that makes a lot of sense. Thank you, pantheism.
Yeah, an actor would see it that way. Yes.
I could have worded it as life is the experience is the universe trying to experience itself. That's how I think that's how pantheists word it. I've heard it as like a quote, so like I don't know context of who said it. Like really cool, but like it's the universe created us so that all the experiences we have the experiences part of the universe where the universe.
Yeah, and that's really interesting, isn't it?
Which is kind of makes sense because God made us so that there could be someone to experience the world that He
They wanted us to interact and wanted us to enjoy
made. Yeah. Not like
His creation.
definition, but like in essence,
Yeah,
we're not the universe.
it's the atheistic maybe sort of take on that. Maybe I don't know. Yeah.
It's like a lot of just going off of it. He said like when he was like, "Oh, you make me happy." Well, not I or you.
Because there is no you.
Because there is no me or I, so it's like it's all connected, which kind of sounds like I'm totally wrong by this. I know, but like it's like to me, it sounds like organs just being connected and all using functions. Exactly not because they're all the same. Right.
Yeah, and I don't know what the definition of tetrahedrons are. I don't think that's necessarily a scientific term. It's probably more of a metaphysical.
Yeah, like I'm just saying, like
That's
I saw like being.
Yeah. And then what do spiritists believe about Jesus? I don't know if we talked about this, so you might have to give your best guess. Yes, Holly?
At least I think they don't really believe in Jesus. They believe that because like Jesus is our basis and Christianity is our basis for what our morality is, but spiritually they believe that they're good and bad spirits, or there are spirits, and what we do, whether it upsets them or it makes them happy, that's what our morality is.
Yeah, and they generally, I don't know if they have a take on Jesus. It's probably just that he was a moral man that lived this earth and
Spirits.
somehow got killed. Yes.
Yeah, I think that that's their basis for him not being God, so that he did something to anger the spirit, and whether we know it or not, well, he died. So he must have done something.
Yeah, I think that's probably very right. Okay, so now I'm going to pause this because I'm going to play a couple videos, and I want to be able to put this on YouTube. What's the difference between an agnostic and an atheist?
An agnostic is someone who either doesn't know whether or not God exists or doesn't believe we can ever have enough information to know that, whereas an atheist claims that they know for sure that God does not exist.
Yes.
Agnostic can also be someone who's or you're still doing research to figure out the history or the Christian, because a lot of them are right on
One of the comedians had a jar with the guy with the ice chips, all that. He has another bit where he says he had an agnostic friend in high school, and he said to him, "You don't know if there's a God, and you made a religion out of that. I need to do that in math, like my math class. Like I'm an arithnostic. I don't know if there's math or there's not. Yeah, that's. Can we understand a person's worldview through their actions?
maybe like the basis of it, but a lot of times with the pyramid, like behaviors reflect someone's worldview, but just through someone's behavior we can't necessarily know their values. Like sometimes Christians make bad decisions and you might see that and be like, oh, they're not a Christian. Like sometimes you don't really know.
Yeah, you can get some clues, but not necessarily know for sure. Yeah.
I think it shouldn't be like the full on thing you base it off of, so like something just telling and so like it should be a good thing to
So
Well, first, there is a difference between what someone claims their worldview is and what it actually is. And
there can be.
yeah, because actions do reflect your worldview. It is a bit hard to tell someone's worldview through actions alone. Actions will reveal the values the person has, which can give us a general basis of what
That's can someone ever change their worldview?
yeah.
Of course.
I feel like on my needs.
So we're gonna move on to something else, two something else's, and for the first one, well, actually, probably for both. I need a guinea pig, and I will let you have candy if you are my guinea pig. But I want to tell you what you're doing first, because this one. So you're going to pretend to be an atheist. Okay.
Let Andrew do it.
Yeah, actually, yeah. Can I roleplay
Where do I
She was
stand?
a great atheist last year.
Okay, Mr. Philosopher.
Okay, Mr. Atheist Ian.
Hey, Mr. Atheistic Philosopher in, can we?
It should be Christian.
Okay.
Like,
We don't believe in the devil here.
oh, I'm sorry. It's not in your worldview.
Okay, so Abe, I want you to imagine that this circle-ish thing it represents all knowledge of all time everywhere. Okay, so this is everything anyone has ever known. Now, I want you to draw on here how much like of all knowledge everywhere, all through time, how much of that do you know?
There's a lot in space, so I'm gonna assume that space is really big, because there's been a lot of time. So I'm gonna say
That's not bad though. That's quite good. So you're an atheist, right?
yeah.
So is it possible? We're just going possibilities, right? If this is all knowledge from all time, isn't it? And this is how much you know. Isn't it possible there might be something outside of your field of knowledge that could be true?
Well, let's say I'm a biologist, and I know a lot about biology. There's somebody who's an astrologist, and so astrology is one of the stars. I don't know what they know, and I know some things that they don't know. So, if we're saying that this is all the knowledge in the world, technically, we as people have our own little circle here. A bunch of little dots where different people know more than others, where others don't. So we all share this little circle here. And this is how much we know now. And then once science progresses, we know more and more and more, and maybe in a billion times billion years, we'll know everything. Maybe.
But this is now.
Yeah. Now.
So now, and you're not going to live. I hate to tell you that, but you're not going to live billions of years. So for now, and you're one person, right? I sure hope so, because we're going to have to call somebody. Hey, come get him. Bring a padded truck. So is it possible that there might be something outside of your understanding and experience that could be true, like maybe a God?
Well, truth is something that needs to be. Could there be something outside of myself? Well,
Just hypothetically.
hypothetically,
Could there be something
outside of my knowledge.
Yes.
Yes.
including God?
Well, there are possibilities, but just because there's a realm of possibilities doesn't mean that everything that could be a possibility exists in that hypothetical
Exactly.
possibility.
But I'm okay with that for now, right? That in the realm of possibility there could possibly be a God. This is just a beginning conversation, right? And we might continue in conversation. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Don't forget to get candy. Okay, so I'm gonna pick on somebody else here too. But before I pick on somebody else, yeah, good job.
We have 5 minutes.
I know we have 5 minutes. I'm going to pick on someone else. But before I pick on someone else, I want to tell you this, that part of the reason we do Worldview with seniors is because every single one of you are going to be someplace that's not Cornerstone next year. I don't know if that's a campus, a college campus, if that's a job, whatever it is. I hope you're not going to be here because that means something went tragically wrong if you're still
I
here.
plan to get held back.
And we want you to take your faith with you and to talk to people. But what I'm hoping is that was I respectful to the atheists? Yeah, and I've told you before that if you get into conversation with an atheist or an agnostic and it turns into a shouting match, it turns into an argument, you need to stop. You need to apologize. Because people look at you and they make their assumptions about God based if they know you are a Christ follower, they make their assumptions about God and about Jesus based on you. And if you're mean, if you're angry, if you're demeaning, that's and so this is all about helping you learn how to have those conversations in a winsome way. So the next thing is they call it, and to that winsomeness, we're going to change the name. They call it the 4 deadly questions. The word deadly is just a little bit hard for me. I don't want to kill anyone. So you will have the opportunity tomorrow to name these questions. And the other class will have the opportunity to name the questions. And then we will, you will vote. We'll take all of the options. It'll probably be like 3 options from each class or something like that. But these are the 4, and I'm not going to write them because it'll take too long. But then I'm also going to have a brief conversation with another atheist. So the first one is, what do you mean by that? The second one, and it might be in your books, how do you know that's true? The third one is, where do you get your information? And the last one is, what happens if you're wrong? So I need another atheist. Come on up.
Why can't I be his atheist?
I never get to be an atheist, guys.
You should have someone to play a mean atheist.
Yes.
So
like an unreasonable, like Aaron level.
So Morgan, you're an atheist. Okay, so what do you mean by atheism?
Not believe in anything that is considered a god.
So you don't believe in anything that is considered a god. That's what you mean when you say you're an atheist. How do you know that's true?
Well, so they are based on facts and reasoning from sciences such as evolution. So we came from.
So well, we came from nothing. There was like just appeared,
Nothing.
fully formed.
Not fully formed, but over time.
So what appeared?
Appeared first.
What do you mean by that? Something
Appeared from nothing. So like, just it happened.
So something came from nothing. Okay. What do you mean by nothing?
Nothing. Unholy.
Nothing. Okay. So where do you get your information?
I get it from the school that teaches me on evolution, and I get it from my own personal research as well, and I get it from my own.
So what happens if you're wrong?
Darn. Well, no. I guess I'd be really angry about it.
So now this gives me an end, doesn't it? I'd be angry. Right? And we can talk about that. Like, can we just have a conversation about what if there is a God? Because if you're wrong, you're going to be angry. And so can we have that conversation? Thank you very much, Morgan. So these are these questions are to help us get into conversations with atheists. It's not a formula. It leads to a deeper conversation. I wish we had more time to do that role play. But I don't want to call them the 4 deadly questions. So tomorrow we'll start working on them. What are you going to say, Lisa? Okay, Morgan, you get candy.